about, the team that Zach and who did he play top 16 again? Jake, was it? Yeah, Jake. Yeah, we're using yesterday. But the issue is, I know there were some differences between those two teams. Where a couple moves were different, a couple items were different. So, how much of what you heard about that do you want to assume? Because it's really easy to make a mistake.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's going to be really crucial to find out even those small differences between similar teams. We are going to go right into battle. Aaron Traylor on the top, using Clefable and Bisharp up against Andrew's Metagross and Thundurus. So 2 Pokemon that we've seen a whole lot of this tournament on Andrew's side, and 2 Pokemon we haven't on Aaron's.
Yeah, I think it's a really fun turn here. I mean, Metagross obviously would love to mash Clefable into little bits here, but the issue with that is got Bisharp on the other side, where Steel-type no longer resists Dark. So one of the big weaknesses to Metagross that changed this year is that now he has to worry about just getting blown up easily by a Dark-type attack the other way.
Yeah.
So it's a tough turn for him here, especially because Bisharp probably in general is a more important Pokemon in this matchup if Andrew wants to start using his own Intimidate later. So it's going to be important for him to find a safe way to deal with this Bisharp here, with Clefable doing its best to stop that. Of
course, the Mega Metagross, actually an interesting choice for Andrew too, will be able to prevent the boost from knockoff. Won't be able to knock off that Metagross site. Thunderbolt coming out from Thundurus while Mega Metagross goes for the Mega Evolution and attacks Bisharp, getting the KO on Bisharp while Clefable protected. Great read from Andrew there.
Yeah, it was a little risky on the side of Aaron there. He was anticipating that Andrew would want to get rid of that Clefable, and just he took a risk there. Had he Follow Mead instead, Clefable would have fainted instead, but at least would have gotten that attack off. But Andrew wisely just doubled into Bisharp instead, knowing it's very unlikely Bisharp will protect, because Clefable can't really do anything. So it ended up being a risk that didn't pay off for Aaron there. It probably would have been worth it just to take the trade. However, now instead he has Clefable here to help deal with Mega Metagross here, help get his Kangaskhan set up. But it's going to be tough for him to actually try to find a way to get a couple power-up punches and sweep here, because there's the threat of Thunder Wave from Thundurus, the threat of Iron Head just blowing up Clefable there for Metagross, and there's still 2 Pokemon in the back to get through. So it's a tough spot for Aaron here. We saw him do a great job of finding his way out of another very difficult-looking position in his last series, so don't count him out yet. Yeah,
but Andrew definitely having the momentum. You could even see it on his face. Definitely trying to ride this high as far as he can. The Clefable using the Follow Me, going to try and redirect any attack that's possible for Thundurus or Mega Metagross to give off. Taunt onto Clefable. Clefable falls for the taunt. That's a pretty interesting animation. I don't know that I've seen that one before. Mega Metagross puts up the substitute while Kangaskhan goes for the power-up, trying to get that extra boost that'll allow it to do a good damage to both of these Pokemon. Yeah, so a nice job by Andrew there. He gets the substitute up, which will help him not just get obliterated by Sucker Punch quite as easily. Although, I don't know, man. Even the second hit of Sucker Punch might be able to get it from there. But with Clefable now taunted and doing its amazing animation, which kind of reminds me of that Clefairy Says game from Pokemon Stadium. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Kangaskhan doesn't have a way to avoid getting Thunder Wave now. So even if he is able to get a Sucker Punch off on a Metagross or a Return off and knock out Thundurus here, is going to be giving up a lot to do it. Definitely a play where it'd be better to have Protect Kangaskhan, so at least you can make a switch and get some more threat in here, because poor Clefable is just sitting duck now. Yeah, and unfortunately a taunted Clefable not doing a whole lot of, putting forth a whole lot of pressure on its opponent. So as you can see, Aaron does have to withdraw that Clefable in favor of his Landorus in the back. Unfortunately, Mega Metagross already behind that substitute, so it won't take the Intimidate. But some offensive pressure from Landorus. Would love to be able to use that Earthquake, I'm sure. Metagross, though, going to protect, not going to do anything too risky, playing it very conservatively, while Thunder Wave onto the Kangaskhan, wants to get that paralysis onto Mega Kangaskhan to make sure that it can't just do a full sweep of the team, and of course gets the paralysis on this turn too. Yeah, it keeps Thundurus around for at least another turn. Nice move by Andy there. I mean, he's made the right move every turn so far, so it's tough if you're on Aaron's side there. I think that he maybe didn't lead the best way he could have this game. Just every turn, Andy's playing really well here. So I think a lot of this game is going to come down to what can you learn if you're Aaron, and then hopefully you can get a couple lucky Sucker Punches off here, maybe trade some KOs. Yeah, it does get a good Sucker Punch off. Will the first one break the substitute? Yes, so we will be able to deal some damage with that second hit of the Sucker Punch. A lot of damage, actually. That was pretty good for the weaker hit. Iron Head from Metagross onto Landorus, trying to get that threat off the field as quickly as possible. Hidden Power from Thundurus, probably doubling up on that Landorus. So we'll be able to pick up the KO on that Landorus right now. Those two targets definitely necessary to get that down. But Kangaskhan is powerful, but Clefable has to come back out against the Mega Metagross and the Thundurus that's already shown taunt.
Yeah, Clefable's a really important part of this team for Aaron, but this is just a really tough matchup for it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know if it's just the whole team, but like just his lead is so tough to do something against it. You know, maybe next game he's going to have to lead something different, start removing one of these Pokemon before Clefable can actually come out and do something. But it might be the weakest taunt, or Pokemon weakest to taunt in the format, just because it does a lot of great things, but none of them are attacking. So it's kind of like Cresselia that way, where once you get the taunt on it, just not doing too much, and they're just, it's a tough spot for him now. You know, Kangaskhan paralyzed, already vastly reduced its effectiveness. As soon as Clefable gets taunted, you can't switch out again this time, so a really tough spot.
Clefable opting not to protect itself, goes for the Iron Head onto Kangaskhan, dealing some decent damage. Double targeting the Kangaskhan, trying to get a flinch or a paralysis. Clefable goes on the offensive, correctly identified that he would not be targeted by a taunt or any of the attacks from Metagross. Return does go off onto Metagross. With those +2, will pick up the KO onto Metagross. So a really high offensive threat down, but Kangaskhan is really weak now.
Yeah, perhaps expecting another substitute instead of that attack, so he went for Return instead of Sucker Punch there. Fortunately, that didn't work out too well for him. I don't know how much it really matters in the end, unfortunately, but you know, just got to learn what you can if you're Aaron here. You know, he probably didn't know too much about Andrew's team now, so he can kind of think through this, like, okay, well, I know Taunt is there, I know the Ice-type hidden power is there, I probably can't lead like this again. So
yeah, a lot of good information, and you know, he's down in a very big hole right now. But it's still game 1 of a best-of-3 set. There's a lot of information that he can learn from this game and use to make his game 2 better and hopefully get a game 3. So it's not out. It's not over for Aaron. Intimidate from Lander is going to make it more difficult. Clefable can still redirect at least 1 turn before Thundurus taunts. So we'll have to see if Aaron can get as much information out of this game as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's sort of a thing, too, right? I mean, it is a best-of-3 series, so it's easy to get your to say, oh, you know, I'm losing this game, but you can do things that help you out in the subsequent games.
Yeah, and the follow me from Clefable into the taunt from the Thundurus. Of course, making sure that Clefable won't be able to use that ever again for the remainder of this battle, most likely. Sucker Punch not going to pick up the KO thanks to that Intimidate, and Landorus, alongside a Flying-type Pokemon, will be able to get the Earthquake off onto both of Aaron's Pokemon. Kangaskhan will go down. Clefable taking some good damage as well. Of course, Clefable pretty bulky, pretty hard to deal with in general. But right now, not going to be able to threaten too much.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, fortunately for Clefable, this is probably the end of the road for it in this game. But certainly, you know, Aaron probably learned some things to get up in the next game. Like, I don't think his team matchup is as terrible as maybe this game made it look. But just when you start out on the wrong foot with the lead matchup like that, it can be so difficult to recover. If you don't have a lot of great tools for switching around. His team isn't bulky the way, say, Zax was bulky last round, where it was easy for him to kind of switch around and adjust.
And we've talked about this before, how games can be lost at turn 0 on Team Preview, and that's definitely, I think, the case for this one. Definitely a winnable team matchup, but we'll have to make those adjustments to make sure that he does not have such a big hole to come back from. Does get the KO onto Landorus this turn, though, so he's at least going to be able to see what the 4th Pokemon Andrew brought, which might be useful information, might be a trap to get him start thinking about this last one. But, you know, it always helps to go down 2-0 instead of 3-0.
Yeah. And, you know, one thing I think is worth noting, too, this game actually was pretty close. I mean, Kangaskhan was fully paralyzed once on a turn where it would have knocked out Thundurus. So this game could easily have been a little bit closer than it was. I think that Andrew had this one pretty well in hand, but it was a pretty close game, all things considered. I'm expecting Game 2 will be as well. I do think you brought up a good point, though, in regard to Landorus actually having something that can Earthquake next to it. I know we were kind of sassing Aaron about that a little bit before. It's a bit of a running joke just because, you know, I know he tried other Intimidate Pokemon in his own Landorus slot and just couldn't find anything, so he's running, you know, Landorus with no Earthquake Resist the Dream, which, I mean, he's gotten away with it on his own side with Landorus, but it makes it that much more difficult to deal with, and we see him dropping that game officially now, and he's going to hold it, dig himself out of here at 0-1.
Yeah, and it's going to be a really big hole to dig himself out of. We already talked about this the first time we saw Aaron, but
I imagine it does fairly well against Thundurus, at least, which was, again, another big problem there. Metagross not as much, but I feel like at least forcing Andrew to use Zen Headbutt would help him a little bit because he's got better resist to that. I just got to find a way to change the game this one.
Yeah, anytime that Metagross can use Iron Head when Clefable is out on either Pokemon is never going to be a good look for Aaron. But it looks like Andrew's going to use that Thundurus and the Landorus, the double Genie lead, classic double Genies, up against Bisharp and Conkeldurr. So Bisharp does get its Defiant boost turn 1, and Conkeldurr is out on the field, a little bit intimidated, but is making some Pokemon choice changes.
Yeah, I mean, at some levels it's a better situation. I mean, you've got to worry on Aaron's side here is you've got two Pokemon that probably really don't want to get blown up by Earthquake here.
Yeah.
Conkeldurr can learn Wide Guard, so it could also be a trap. But actually, I think I like that position for that regard. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to at least be afraid of Wide Guard if you're Andrew, so you have to play a little bit more slowly
You can also threaten with an Ice Punch on both Pokemon.
Right, you've got Ice Punch that can go either way.
Yeah.
You've got the Defiant Boost and Bisharp. So I think it's a much better lead for Aaron. I do think it's a very delicate position for both sides there, where both of them could easily make a play that could result in like losing about a Pokemon and a half here.
Yeah.
So they have to be careful.
Bisharp's going to protect turn 1. Aaron trying to make sure that Bisharp is around so he can deal with that Metagross a little better. Andrew not falling for it, though, goes for the Thunderbolt onto Conkeldurr. Earthquake onto both of them. Conkeldurr needs to survive this Earthquake if Aaron's going to have a shot at this. Is it going to be enough? Just barely survives with just a sliver of health. Pops the Citrus Berry, going to heal back up. And will Conkeldurr be able to get a KO now? Ice Punch coming out from Conkeldurr onto Thundurus. The Thundurus that gave him so many problems. Not quite enough. Just a little bit under 50% there. But good damage, important damage, most importantly.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit under 50% might actually be a good thing.
Yeah,
because
no
the
Citrus
advantage of that
Berry.
is exactly you can't Citrus Berry anymore. So, while it might have a little bit more health, it might have had a little bit more health that actually took a little bit more damage there. Now it's a little bit easier to try to pick it off without ever activating it.
Thanks, Landorus.
Get around that Citrus Berry in the same way that Landorus nearly did there with Conkeldurr just barely hanging on to get that berry off. There's also, again, the threat of Wide Guard. So Andy wasn't afraid of it last turn. If Wide Guard is available now, it's a pretty good time to use it probably. Conkeldurr may go down for it, but Bisharp can likely trade a Pokemon and take a big advantage.
There it is, Conkeldurr's Wide Guard. Did Andrew expect this? He's shaking his head. Thunderbolt coming out from Thundurus onto Bisharp is going to deal good damage to that. Earthquake from Landorus, so Aaron is going to be able to get the attack off. No damage dealt from Earthquake. Knockoff onto Thundurus, knocks off the Citrus Berry, gets the KO on Thundurus, and that's a huge KO for Aaron, given how much that Thundurus messed with his team last time.
Yeah, we were talking a lot about how big a problem Thundurus was, how big of a problem that Metagross was. He got one of those down now. He hasn't lost any Pokemon to it. He has taken a lot of damage, but he does have Bisharp at +1 here. Landorus still has the issue that it has to deal with Wide Guard. Most Landorus do tend to be choice locked, and we haven't seen this one change moves yet, so I think it's very likely that this one is also choice locked. So, Andy's going to be careful now. There's a good chance he's going to switch here to avoid the threat of Wide Guard. If he doesn't, there's a great chance of him just wasting a turn. So it's a very precarious position for him now, especially picking this Pokemon is going to be very careful, knowing that, okay, like, going to be really careful what I pick because I probably need to protect and switch, so something's going to take some damage next turn. We do see Metagross coming in here, which does hint that the protect and switch is very likely. You're not going to want to Earthquake Metagross Landorus. You're not going to want to risk just getting Wide Guarded and letting Bisharp blow up non-Mega Metagross. So I would expect a protect and a switch on Andy's side and a Wide Guard and Bisharp attacking the Landorus slot on Aaron's side, unless he expects Andy to be really daring, but that's some of the advantage of being up 1-0.
I mean, Metagross is a powerful Pokemon. It could, take some risks here and get a knockout while Aaron tries to make that prediction.
You're right. This is the thing. It's the danger is that once you're down 1-0 in a series like this, your opponent has a lot of room, right? Because like if you take a big risk and it wins you the game, you're through to the next round. You take a big risk and it doesn't pay off, you still get another shot at it. So we'll see what he does with this advantage here, and it does look like he's going to be not switching. Yeah,
he is Mega Evolving his Metagross, leaving Landorus in. Interesting play, Metagross going for the protect because of the Earthquake coming from that Landorus. What's going to happen here? Conkeldurr uses the Wide Guard. Good play from Aaron. Not going to be taking any damage from the Earthquake. Very safe play there. We'll have to see what Bisharp chose to do. Will Bisharp be able to deal any damage? Iron Head onto Landorus, going for whatever would be in that slot. Great play, free damage onto that Landorus.
Yeah, I almost in some ways like that more than knocking the Landorus out because it still has the same problem as last turn.
It can't do anything.
It's locked into Earthquake. It's got a Metagross next to it, so you still have to switch, right? I mean, I think now probably substitute and switch is the best play, but that was pretty exploitative. It was a great job of just taking advantage of Andy being in a bad spot there. Now he's got Metagross that's faster, so that's some level of threat, but even if it knocks a Conkeldurr, that Wide Guard still counts if it faints. So. It's a tough position for Andy now. And even if he tries to get the substitute off, it's easy just to lose that. There's the threat of Bishop's still hitting whatever could switch in here. So tough spot. Aaron's played this match really well. I did a great job of recovering after the first game, and we still haven't seen 2 of his Pokemon. Yeah,
he's definitely bouncing back, and these are still his leads. You're right. We are going to have the switch out from Landorus into the Terrakion. Man, I bet Aaron wishes he had that Iron Head that turn. Metagross not protecting this turn, may go for the substitute. Sucker Punch from Bisharp fails, so Metagross is going for the substitute. Went for a sort of a riskier play there for Aaron, but gives Andy the free sub.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. I feel like you either have to knock out the Metagross slot, or knock off, I should say. I guess they could knock out the Metagross slot, or Iron had the Landorus slot there. That one is pretty daring. It gave it's the one play that really has a high chance of giving Andrew a step back into the game, and he did it there. I feel like Landorus isn't going to Earthquake there, right? So it kind of makes things a little bit simpler for us. So the first imperfect play from Aaron this game, but he still has an advantage.
Yeah, he's still up 4-3. Both of his Pokemon on the field are a little bit weak, but he's still up in numbers right now.
Yeah, and that makes a big difference. It is still not an easy turn for him here, though. He wants to preserve that Bisharp as long as he can while he's got that boost. But he's going to take some risks here. Yeah,
Bisharp going for the Sucker Punch to break the substitute from Metagross. Does not want to let Andy just hide behind the substitute there. Metagross uses the Iron Head onto Conkeldurr, going to pick up the KO there. And see if Terrakion, what move choice it has made. Looks like Terrakion also going for the substitute. Andy with substitute Terrakion. I haven't seen that in a long time.
Yeah, I haven't either. It was a staple for a while in 2011, and I think that was the last time it was really popular. I know there's like one team in 2013 that's pretty famous that used it, but certainly not something we usually see. I mean, Terrakion does have some issues filling that last move slot after a close combat Rock Slide and Protect, but usually we see something like Double Kick to deal with Focus Sash, Smeargle, and Bisharp, or a number of other coverage moves like Quick Guard has been the most popular option.
Yeah.
But we do see Substitute here instead. It's a great thing to get to reveal at a game 2. It definitely makes things a much more complicated for Aaron than I'm sure he had expected it to be. So I don't know what his plan is going to be here. I can guarantee you he was not expecting that to happen. And also prevents him from getting that Intimidate off on Terrakion here.
Yeah, but he does get the Intimidate onto Metagross, so at least it's not as bad as it could have been. I mean, Terrakion does get the substitute up, but Aaron does get to keep his Bisharp. Any other play, that Bisharp goes down. So sort of a mixed bag there. Anything behind a substitute is threatening. So I love that move just because I love having substitutes in front of my Pokemon. It just gives you so much opportunity and wiggle room.
Yeah, the other thing, too, is why that's a good play. Is I was kind of expecting Aaron to Mach Punch there with Conkeldurr to get something out of the turn, but even if he had, it would have broken the Focus Sash, but it doesn't matter because the substitute would still have gotten up. So that's a really good play by Andrew there. It covered really any of the plays that Aaron was likely to make.
Yeah, definitely a good play there. Bisharp going for the Sucker Punch onto Metagross. Metagross choosing to attack, gets the KO. Metagross goes down. Bisharp not protecting. Is that Landorus going to try and go for an Earthquake? Both Pokemon avoid Rock Slide from Terrakion, but Landorus gets its own off onto the Terrakion. Substitute takes a little bit of damage there, not going to break, but both of those avoids. Huge. Wouldn't have dealt that much damage. May have gotten the KO on Bisharp depending on the training. Probably not, but huge play there for Aaron to get the KO on that Mega Metagross.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that Andy allowed that. And now I guess we kind of traded mistakes the last 2 turns, right, where both sides took a risk they probably didn't need to take, and it paid off once for each of them. Getting that second Intimidated Bisharp will make it so that it can, I guess it could already easily knock out either of these Pokemon. So the Defiant Boost doesn't matter too much, but it definitely makes the situation more complicated for Andy. If he is, like many people, using a Choice Landorus here, he has to walk into the Sucker Punch and give it up for free. So definitely unfortunate position for him now. Yep,
there's the Sucker Punch from Aaron onto Landorus. Landorus is going to go down. A critical hit from +2. Bisharp, just, gravy on top. So Terrakion's Rock Slide up against Landorus and Bisharp. Going to be dealing some good damage there. Bisharp going to survive. Landorus also surviving. Landorus flinches, of course. I mean, it wouldn't be top 4 without Landorus flinching or Landorus flinching others.
Yeah, that's just how it goes.
Terrakion showing Protect behind the substitute, just trying to stall out probably that Sucker Punch PP maybe, or just a couple of turns here while we wait for timer to go down. So dead turn there, nothing happening. Landorus using the Earthquake, blows the Protect from Bisharp actually, so now Landorus can't Earthquake this next turn.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that we haven't just seen it. I think the play, if you're on Aaron's side here, I mean, I guess there's counterplay no matter what. I mean, like, I'm kind of surprised he hasn't just, like, Sucker Punched Earthquake, but I guess if that substitute could still mess with that. But all you really need to do if you're Aaron is to get a situation where you've got Landorus out and Terrakion doesn't have that substitute up.
Yep.
But I guess it's tough for Andrew to really find a way to knock out this many Pokemon this quickly, especially if Aaron wisely taking the full 45 seconds here. With a 2 Pokemon advantage like this, even if Terrakion's sort of a problem behind the substitute, time is not going to be his friend here. And you can see it whittling away, especially if he's protecting like that and killing turns. He's really going to have to be careful about not using more turns than he needs to do things here. Yeah,
Aaron does go for the Sucker Punch and the Super Power. Sucker Punch failing because of the substitute, but Super Power going to break open that substitute. So substitutes down. Landorus does lose some of its attack there, but given that it's just up against Terrakion, it's probably not too worried about that.
Yeah, I mean, certainly not going to put it in a range where Rock Slide's going to knock it out or anything, and Super Power should still be able to take care of it, I believe. So Terrakion's down a tougher spot. Rock Slide still, it's the missed chance. If he takes another Super Power and Iron Head, he's likely to lose. So it's a little more complicated. Substituting, if he gets double targeted by Super Power and Iron Head now, substitute's not going to save him anymore. So it's a little bit tougher for him to try to find a solution to the situation, especially because, again, the time is still a problem. It keeps ticking down. He only has so many turns. He protected 2 turns ago. He substituted last turn. He's running out of time here. He's only going to get like 3-4 more turns probably, especially because you get the timer when you're switching out as well, and Aaron's at least going to have to replace 1 more Pokemon. So he's really going to have to find a way to solve this game quickly.
Landorus switches out to reset its stats in favor of Kangaskhan in the back. And Kangaskhan's not a bad Pokemon to have in the back. Terrakion, of course, is able to deal good damage to it with close combat. Rock Slide misses Bisharp, though, deals damage to Kangaskhan, and Iron Head from Bisharp. That's going to be the game. Aaron brings it back in this Game 2 of this best-of-3 set.
Yeah, really great game by him. And
very solid.
I was impressed by the way he played the beginning of that game. I think he tricked Andrew into thinking he didn't have wide guard there. Then once he pulled it out there, the game was pretty much over. There just wasn't much that Andrew could do at that point. He'd committed too hard to the Earthquake path, and then at that point, by the time we were both sides would be okay with the 4 Pokemon last game. Like Andrew would probably prefer them in a different order.
Right.
But I mean, I don't think that big changes are going to be necessary for either side. I think it's definitely an option both of them have, if they want to try to throw their opponent off. But it looks like that's exactly what Andrew's going to go for here. Yeah,
Andy going with the Hydreigon and the Thundurus up against Bisharp Kangaskhan. So Bisharp making an appearance again, doesn't get the Defiant boost right off the back. Landorus either in the back or sitting on the bench this time. But Kangaskhan out up front will be able to exert some fake-out pressure. But that Hydreigon, we've talked about it a lot. When we've seen similar teams like this, there's so many different ways it can go based on its item choice, and if you don't know the item, it's incredibly threatening.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if this is choice specs, you got a good shot at just knocking out Kangaskhan in a single hit. So the temptation here might be, I want to fake out Thundurus here to stop the Thunder Wave, but Faint is a worse status condition than Paralysis, so it's going to be a tricky position for him. He does have the option, assuming he brought it, of switching his own Landorus in, which I think this will be the safest play for him here. But he also has to worry about the threat of what's going to happen to Bisharp here. He's really going to have to try to find a way to take an attack from Hydreigon here and try to figure out its item. Yeah, well, Thundurus is going to switch out in favor of Terrakion, and Hydreigon's also going to switch out. Double switch from Andy, bringing Metagross out. So we know all 4 Pokemon that Andy has brought. Landorus not amongst them this time, afraid of that Conkeldurr most likely. Double switch, will Aaron be able to get some extra damage off, some free damage? He is not confident about it, it looks like. The Mega Evolution from Kangaskhan, fake out onto either of these Pokemon, not going to worry too much about it. Metagross this time takes a little bit of chip damage, while Bisharp is going to go for Knockoff. Knockoff dealing good damage onto Terrakion, but activating the Justified from Terrakion, getting an attack boost from that. So Bisharp's used to getting attack boosts. The tables have turned a little bit here. Andrew, I guess the adjustment he made was that he was tired of giving Bisharp attack boosts and stopped bringing Intimidate, which is probably going to make this match a lot simpler for him. That was a great switch into the Terrakion there. He baited it pretty well there, where Bisharp wasn't likely to be able to do much damage to Hydreigon, but it was likely Hydreigon would attack to the Kangaskhan slot. So by switching to Terrakion, I was pretty likely he was going to get that Justified boost there. So definitely a tough spot now for Aaron. He's got 2 Pokemon that really don't want to take close combats, and the Mega get in for free on Andrew's side, which is likely to get up a free substitute here. Terrakion could still do the same thing. So while I wouldn't be surprised to see Landorus coming in Aaron's side to try to slow down that Terrakion some, he's going to be a step behind for a few turns here.
Well, it looks like there won't be any switches. Metagross is going to go ahead and Mega Evolve into that Mega Metagross. gotten better at saying that over the weekend. Is back on the field. Sucker Punch from Kangaskhan failing. Terrakion using Substitute as predicted. Going to be safe behind the Substitute there. Metagross also the double sub. Double subs from Andy. And Bisharp going to try and get some damage off with knockoff onto Metagross. We'll probably be able to break that sub, but you know, Substitute with +1 Terrakion. Now the Landorus can't get rid of that boost, and that's scary. Yeah,
we saw how big of a problem Aaron was having with Substitute Terrakion at the end of last game. And now it has an attack boost and 3 friends. So it's going to be that much harder this time. You know, I guess the one good thing is it can only close combat one of the 2 Pokemon here, so the other one are at least going to get an attack off. But the Terrakion's definitely not low enough that Kangaskhan could knock it out with a power-up punch. So it's still just a tough spot. And Metagross can be threatening a lot of damage as well. Or another Substitute, which again, you know, if you end up in a situation where both these Pokemon have Substitutes up at the end of a turn, the game's probably going to be over. So the temptation to switch here would be great normally, but it's...
You don't want to give free
potential
turns.
Is huge.
Yeah, Metagross does try to get up its Substitute to have both Substitutes up. Terrakion going on the offensive, close combat onto Kangaskhan. Going to be an easy KO on that Mega Kangaskhan. So Mega down for Aaron. Bisharp needs to break these Substitutes to have a chance at winning this game. Of course, you see close combat dropping defenses. That doesn't matter if it's behind a Substitute. That Substitute's going to be there anyway. Iron Head coming out onto Terrakion, trying to get that threat off the field instead of the Metagross. Interesting choice. Do you feel like the Terrakion was the right Substitute to get down there?
I think probably, but it's hard to say. I mean, Metagross somewhat is less threatening in the sense that from a typing perspective, it doesn't threaten his team as much, unless his last Pokemon is Kincalder. But I don't know. It's tough because they're both such a big problem.
Yeah.
I guess the one thing that's good now is like Terrakion's almost getting down to the point where, you know, a Sucker Punch will at least knock it out after another Substitute. Now it's probably close even before one. So at least he's in critical hit range of a Sucker Punch if you
does get an Intimidate too.
And yeah, you get that Intimidate off. It's just a matter, you know, which target you think you need the Intimidate on more. This is one of those situations where Aaron choosing to run Assault Vest Landorus rather than Choice Scarf is actually going to work against him. I know he's mentioned it's worked really well for him throughout this tournament, but at this point, having that faster Earthquake could probably make this situation a lot easier to deal with, where it has to worry about Terrakion flinching it or getting a Substitute up before it can Earthquake now. And trying to Earthquake next to Bisharp is going to be really daring. You know, it's not like he's got Protects blown where he can just Sucker Punch Earthquake and trade Bisharp for it. So it's going to be a tough spot for him here, to say the least.
Yep, Metagross going to protect away behind that Substitute, being very safe, very cagey, and try not to take any damage. Bisharp protecting. Here comes the Earthquake, most likely from Landorus. We'll have to see what Terrakion actually going on the offensive, using Rock Slide, trying to get as much damage as possible, hoping for a flinch. Landorus, will it be able to get? No! Rock Slide's flinch. Rock Slide is just too good of a move.
Yeah, it's been a tournament of flinches so far today, and we see yet another one there. Bisharp does avoid getting its Focus Sash broken, which could be helpful here, but not getting that Earthquake is big. That would have removed the Terrakion, brought the game to 3-3. We would have still been close here, even with Metagross behind that Substitute. But you know, keeping that 4-3 advantage is definitely a big deal for Andy here, and it's going to make it hard for Aaron to battle back. That was a play he really needed to get made here, so we'll see if he can find a way to claw his way out of it, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah, definitely going to be tough for Aaron. Still has that Bisharp, still has that Focus Sash available, as you mentioned. So one Earthquake not going to be the end of the world. An Earthquake and anything else will be. But Bisharp still being able to put off a little bit of pressure. Of course, you know, both of these Pokemon on Angie's side playing very safe, but the double protect, Aaron went for it, got it. Metagross's Iron Head onto Landorus, going for as much damage as possible and as many flinches as possible. So much damage. Close combat from Terrakion onto the Bisharp slot, though, so Earthquake coming out, no flinch. Going to be able to pick up the KO on Terrakion and break the sub on Metagross in a little bit better position. He needed that double protect there.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same odds as Rock Slide flinching, so
fair.
Can't feel too bad for him.
Yeah.
Gives and takes, but yeah, I mean, because of that, you know, poor Landorus had to take a bunch of damage it wouldn't have otherwise, but still, I mean, it's a manageable situation. You get rid of that Substitute. So I guess that was the trade, right? Because Metagross would have kept the Substitute otherwise. So now it's a little bit tougher for Metagross. He has to worry about, do I want to Substitute and, you know, risk giving Bisharp a free turn? You know, is Landorus going to Earthquake with Bisharp out there? Do I attack and risk getting Sucker Punch? So Metagross is a more difficult situation now. And Andy has to choose to bring one of his Pokemon in here. Aaron has already seen both of them because we saw that double switch on turn 1, so he's not risking giving up information here, but definitely still a big decision, and we see Thundurus as the Pokemon he's choosing to bring in.
Yeah, I think most times when you have a difficult decision, there is that temptation to go back to Thundurus. Thundurus can pull out wins from nowhere, and especially when you're ahead. Landorus also might have the option of using a superpower instead of Earthquake to deal some damage to Metagross. Metagross is pretty low. Might be tempting for Aaron there. But Bisharp really going to need to make something happen against this Thundurus.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just another play where he's had a bunch of these games where he's going to have to find a way to get Andy to blow some turns here because he's still just a little bit behind. We haven't seen his last Pokemon. That's a big advantage for Aaron. If it's something that can help against any of these Pokemon, he can still make some serious plays. And Andy doesn't know what it is, so he doesn't have the advantage of trying to plot out the end game as well as Aaron can here. But we just see hidden power coming from Thundurus. Such a
hidden power Thundurus. Landorus off the field, Hydreigon in the field now, and Mega Metagross switching out. So we will have to see what Aaron's final Pokemon is. But Bisharp is getting a free turn to use Knockoff onto that Thundurus, deals a lot of damage, gets rid of the Citrus Berry, so no healing. So next time Thundurus wants to attack, it's going to be in a load of trouble. But Conkeldurr is Aaron's last Pokemon. Up against that Hydreigon will be a very interesting matchup.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a really close finish. Hydreigon definitely doesn't want to deal with that Conkeldurr there. Drain Punch, you do huge amounts of damage and heal Conkeldurr back. Bisharp's still going to be very important for Aaron to try to keep alive because he's going to need it to finish off Metagross and avoid just getting donked by Zen Headbutt here. So, when do you protect if you're Aaron? It's not really a matter of if, but at some point he's going to need to do it. Is it this turn? Is it next turn? At some point he's going to have to find a way to get it out with Metagross in a turn where it's not substituting or protecting.
Yeah.
But it's just important for on Aaron's end, I guess, to try to safely remove Hydreigon and then find a way to get rid of Thundurus as well.
Yeah, you need to find a way to make sure that Hydreigon isn't going to be able to nuke one of your last two Pokemon on the field. Sucker Punch onto Thundurus. Thundurus going for the attack, picks up a KO on Thundurus. Hydreigon going to be able to get off an attack, though. Draco Meteor is going to connect. Who is it connecting with? It's connecting with Conkeldurr. This is a huge attack. Will Conkeldurr be able to survive this Draco Meteor from Hydreigon? It's going down, not able to survive. So strong.
Yes, again.
Oh, 1 HP. Conkeldurr surviving with 1 HP, restores itself with Citrus Berry and the Drain Punch onto Hydreigon. Going to be able to not quite pick up the KO, but put it well within Mach Punch range and regain all of that lost health. Wow.
Yeah, what a survival there. It was that close, and the game would have been all but over. But Conkeldurr heals back all that health. With Hydreigon not taking recoil damage from Life Orb, you can guarantee its choice spec. So Mach Punch here will quickly finish off the Hydreigon, and now Metagross is in the situation where it has to deal with two Pokemon. So it looked like Aaron's tournament was over, but Conkeldurr just barely hangs on there. Now he could be able to take this match.
Conkeldurr, MVP of the tournament for Aaron right there. Just so close, 1 HP. I mean Hydreigon, especially if it is running choice specs, to survive that in general is impressive. I mean, 1 HP just adds a little bit extra to it, but Mach Punch coming out, Conkeldurr going to pick up the KO on Hydreigon, handshakes across the table, Hydreigon going down. It looks like Andy thinks his tournament is over. Zen Headbutt from Mega Metagross onto Conkeldurr. Looks like Bisharp going to be able to, Bisharp has been on the field this entire game, basically. Finally, the knockoff going to connect with Mega Metagross. That's going to be the KO. Aaron Traylor, by 1 HP, takes home the win here and moves on to our grand finals.
What an exciting finish there. It looked like it was over.
Yeah.
From 2 turns from the end there,
over.
I thought for sure, like, oh, well, congratulations, Andrew. You've taken the match.
Yeah.
But, not quite